We had a bunch of big sell in crypto, but the market's getting floor support. That's right, XRP price action at the end because, we're above $3. How are we doing with the Clarity Act? I've got the latest updates for you. What about Operation Chokepoint 2.0 still going on? Oh, so we thought the new regime was pro-crypto, but they're still trying to shut us out from getting into the banking system. We'll talk that along with...
I say lots of naughty things, so here's your warning.
It's good to be back home, but I'm already missing Guatemala. I've already got another trip planned. That's right, baby. The markets will roar when I leave again. But floor support and green up on the screen. Love it. Now, before we get into the news, the bank's still trying to choke us out of the crypto. Yeah. Oh, you know the deal. Your comments come first. Why? Because you, the viewer, matter most. That's why I brought you news while on vacation. Shane Wilkins dropping support on the channel. Thank you, Shane. Says, thanks, brother. I appreciate you. This is a two-way street. Because without the viewers, what would we have? Just me talking to the camera with what? No response. Manny Mean says Turbo would be my pick. We got a Porsche fan in the house, but if you can, get one that's got the old S button on it. Home Value Glasses, yeah. I'm okay with a $3 floor. For 5 years, XRP had a gravitational pull to 21 cents. So yeah, $3 is great. Dude, I'm with you. Now, this last comment, let me share some knowledge, share some truth with y'all, because some people here just don't get it. And this is why you hit the subscribe button, everyone, because I show you the real stuff. Love Your Life says, who controls the Senate? Make sure y'all don't start trying to say that the Democrats are trying to destroy the bill. Republicans have the majority in both houses. So if enough of them are against a bill, it won't pass. If all of them are for a bill, it will pass. Dems have zero power in Congress. Now remember that. False. False, false, false. This is when media out there kind of controls the narrative. Let me actually show you, crypto-wise, what the power looks like. Okay, so we had this, the Big Beautiful Bill Act, right? Said, oh, bro, if all the Republicans... Check this out. You actually had 2 Republicans not vote for that bill. You got to remember, all the Democrats and all the Republicans, they aren't all voting together on everything. Some of these bills, right, have support from the Democrats. And in fact, we've seen that the Democrats were able to block some of the proceedings. What about the Genius Act? The Genius Act passed in the House with a vote of 308 to 122, with 102 Democrats voting in favor. For the Big Beautiful Bill, like I said, that didn't get ramrodded through. You actually had Republicans that weren't cool with that. You actually have some Republicans who aren't cool with some of the crypto stuff either. What about the Clarity Act? The Clarity Act just passed the House vote 294 to 134 with 78 Democrats voting for that. So we're not completely split, everyone. No, you got some pro-crypto Democrats out there, and you got some Republicans that aren't too cool with it. So just remember, everyone, even though, yes, the Republicans have control in the House, they're not all voting in line. Bitcoin's sitting at 118,268. Just had to share some knowledge with you. XRP at 321, while ETH is at 3737. Sweet, deep in the green at 431. Will Sweet make another run at it? Well, we'll find out soon enough. All right, let's get you all caught up. Where's the Clarity Act? Well, it's actually pretty easy to find out where. Done in the House, went over to the Senate. I've got the schedule for the Senate up on the screen. Oh, yeah, and this is all linked down below in the description box. So, check this out. You can search in here, and look, I've got everything up here for the schedule. You can search, and I will put in clarity. And guess what? Nothing pops up. The only thing that has clarity, and it's a word, okay, not the Clarity Act, is for a Homeland Security Governmental Affairs meeting. Yeah. So, nothing right now updated in the Senate in regards to the Clarity Act. Were they using Messenger Pigeon to send it off? Galaxy Digital sells $9 billion in BTC, but Bitcoin recovers. Here's how. Well, honestly, because there's a lot of people that still want to buy, and there's a lot of people that want to sell. What about Larson, right? Larson most recently got rid of some of his XRP, but it was easily gobbled up by people. Look at the price of XRP. Yeah, bounced back. Look at the price of BTC. Bounced back. So even though there are some people selling, there are some people buying. Not everyone is in hodl mode, right? There are a lot of people that like making some profits. You know, they like making their 10% and so forth. And this is a good example of it. On the 25th of July, Galaxy Digital revealed that it facilitated a sale of more than 80,000 BTC. Holy shit. This was from a Satoshi Era wallet, and it was described as one of the largest notional Bitcoin transactions ever. The transaction was part of the investor's broader estate planning strategy. Yeah. So if you got some oldies out there and they're trying to do some estate planning, maybe they're going to get rid of some of their assets. They don't always have to be in hodl mode. So remember, there's always a buyer, there's always a seller. So don't freak out when you hear about, oh, they're dumping this or dumping that. Larson dumped, like, I think it was like 2% of his XRP. That's it. If you dump 2% of your bags, would you be considered selling out? Hell no. Some people just are taking profits. Gemini CEO can't stand these fucking douchebags, but I gotta share the news anyways. Gemini CEO says JP Morgan is punishing criticism with a banking freeze. Oh yeah. So Operation Chokepoint 2.0 is still alive and well. On July 25th, Tyler Winklevoss, co-founder of Gemini, disclosed that JP Morgan informed the exchange it would no longer proceed with plans to reintegrate the platform. Oh, God. This move follows the earlier offboarding of Gemini during the period of crypto advocates dubbed 2.0. At the time, several banks under regulatory pressure cut off services to crypto firms. The recent pause, however, appears to be tied to a different conflict, one centered on financial data rights. Winklevoss has been outspoken about JP Morgan's push to charge fintech firms to access customer banking data. He argues that this effort is aimed at undermining the startups that rely on such access to offer users seamless financial services. This is what he said. JP Morgan wants us to stay silent while they quietly try to take away your right to access banking data for free through third-party fintechs. So now you criticize the banks and the control that they're having to do, and what do? They shut you down with their banking services. So yeah, maybe we did get rid of Gensler. Yeah, maybe we did get rid of Rostin Benham and a whole bunch of anti-crypto people out there. The problem is we still got the traditional banks that are trying to keep us out of crypto. Operation Chokepoint 2.0, maybe it should be Operation Chokepoint 69, then we at least could have some fun with it. XRP adoption by healthcare startups raises regulatory questions. Well, yeah, it raises regulatory questions because, as I just shared with you, we don't even have the Clarity Act in the Senate, everyone. Yeah. Exactly. So we need the regs in order to go forward so that more companies can get in. The adoption of XRP by healthcare firms is not going to notice by regulators and market analysts. Former SEC attorney Mark Fagel expressed skepticism on social media, emphasizing the risks associated with a financially vulnerable company accumulating crypto assets. Now, that's the truth, okay? Because you got to remember, if a company buys Bitcoin, XRP, whatever, if they're losing money, and if they're in trouble financially, buying crypto doesn't help them, right? Because eventually they have to sell assets to what everyone, keep their cash flow going. So what Mark is basically saying here is, look, some of these big companies, if they're losing money, they will be forced to sell their crypto, and that can put pressure on crypto. But what are we looking at? We're looking at the bigger picture here. And some of the companies that are buying crypto are actually in very healthy condition. His concerns underscore the regulatory challenges that arise when traditional industries incorporate volatile digital currencies into their balance sheets. Conversely, crypto legal advocate Bill Morgan argues that such adoption could represent a legitimate evolution of business finance. I agree. Finance is changing. The way we live our lives is 365, 24/7, and the traditional finance system doesn't go along with that. By the way, happy Saturday, everyone. I'm glad to be back home, but I really do miss GT. All right, overall in the crypto market, we got 135 billion in volume. Fear and greed's hanging out at 64, while the altcoin season index is hanging out at what? 44. Inflows are still strong in the market, so the bigs are still buying. Let's talk XRP floor, because what did I tell you? I said, look, I want to see what happens through this weekend, and we're seeing some juicy action. Speaking of it, look at this. Chart looks pretty good up on the screen for the 1 day, doesn't it? Hell yeah, it does. The volume, though, is starting to shrink, but this is still good, though, for the weekend. Volume down 48% to $4.7 billion. Ooh, the 1 day chart for XRP looks healthy as we're up 5.65%. 7 days shows us what? This is that floor that I'm talking about, right? It appears we had the worst of it all the way back here on the 24th of July when I was in Guate. Now that I'm back in Los Estados Unidos, you know what I mean? It looks like the floor action is starting to be built. Let's go to those candlesticks and see what we got here. Yeah, they got rid of the 15-day, so I got to hang out with the 1 hour version. But you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Floor. And in fact, you had two candlesticks right here super close to each other. This one had a low of 302. This one here had a low of 299. So again, $3 support seems to be being built for XRP. Now, in terms of what we can expect for things to make us go more in the green, well, what about when the Clarity Act gets to the Senate? What about the anti-CBDC bill? What about XRP ETFs? What about, I don't know, Jerome Powell cutting rates? He ain't going to cut this one. Don't worry. He's going to cut most likely in September. But we got all that to look forward to. So yeah, let's hold and develop that $3 floor, because when we zoom out, everyone, for the longest time we were holding a 30 to 50 cent floor. And a $3 floor now, less than a year later, would be absolutely juicy, especially knowing we got more good news to come. So yeah, a little floor support being built. But like I said, I'm not going to be too excited until we go through this weekend. I'm expecting even lower volume tomorrow unless something crazy happens with the news. But let's see if we can maintain that $3 floor. And that would be awesome because, like I said, we would be maintaining it knowing that we still got rate cuts and ETFs and other companies getting into strategic reserve assets. And remember, I'm checking out the Garmin right now. In 4 days, we have the White House's big crypto report. Yeah, the 180-day crypto report. Supposedly, rumors on the street have it that they're going to be talking about strategic reserve assets. Ooh. Are we going to have XRP mentioned again, or are they just going to stick with the BTC? Either way, we've seen big selling BTC, but the price doesn't reflect it. Why? Because there's always a buyer in the market. And we're seeing that with XRP. If Larson wants to dump his XRP, cool. There's plenty of us out there that want to gobble it up on the dip. And what are we noticing? We're getting that floor support. So whether it's BTC or XRP, the floor is obviously different than before the November election. Much higher, isn't it? Juicy stuff. Now, like I said, I'm back at home, back in the studio, but for real, I'm already missing Guatemala. In fact, watched a bunch of Guatemalan videos last night because I'm going back there again shortly, and I think I'm going to make another trip with my son where we kind of go off the completely beaten path and hang out in one of the most beautiful countries in the world with some of the most beautiful people in the world. Seriously, so friendly. I don't speak the best Spanish. My Spanish, really sucks. Everyone there was working with me, making sure I understood. People were writing stuff down for me. They were showing me pictures. I went to straight up local food places where there was no menu and I was able to order food, no problem. And it worked out great. So if you ever get a chance, go to Guate. Why? Because it's one of the coolest countries in the world. Choo-choo what? Well, I'm back home, baby. So it's choo-choo bitches.